Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Devy to Dynasty Film Room podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jackson. No Matt Cooper with us tonight, but don't you guys worry. We've got our co-host, Matthew Rupert, in the building with us. I'm not doing this solo. Matthew Rupert, how are you doing today?
Doing phenomenal. About
How
to
was
set
your
my face full of some Halloween candy. How about
I
you?
was about to ask, man, how's your Halloween going? You know, you took the kids out trick-or-treating, I assume. Did you get any good Halloween candy?
Yeah. We're in a new neighborhood this year, so there's like 200 houses in here, and they went pretty bananas for Halloween. So this was a lot of fun. We didn't even get through half the neighborhood. And there's just so many houses getting out candy. So
Yeah, we went downtown for the first time. We live, kind of near the Asheville area. We went downtown, and there's a neighborhood back there that was passing out candy. So like the entire town was like in that neighborhood. It felt like there were so many people, but we got like almost like a pillowcase full of candy. And we have, as you know, we've got a 2-year-old. So the 2-year-old's not going to eat all of that candy, hopefully.
Yeah.
So mom and dad got a little bit of candy. We're going to use some of that candy for potty training, but
yes,
perfect.
perfect.
We got some good candy. So I got to ask you, man, favorite Halloween candy? What's your go-to candy?
Reese's peanut butter cups all the way.
Reese's peanut butter cups. I think that's a solid choice.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the Twix bars, man. I like when the houses pass out Twix bars. My daughter, for some reason, she really enjoyed the candy corn that she got in one of her bags while we were walking around.
That's a rarity.
I think that's wild. I mean, when do you ever seen somebody going through and you're like, you know what my favorite Halloween candy is? It's candy corn.
Yeah.
So I think maybe my child's just weird. I don't know, but
she'll probably grow out of it.
Yeah, she'll come to the light side, I guess, with the rest of us. So
she'll realize there's a lot better.
Well, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight we are talking about football. Even though it is Halloween, we're talking about football tonight. And I figured there's no better way to start as we always do, going in and talking about our reactions from the college football season. And Rupert, you've actually got a surprise for us tonight. You've started watching some of the football from the college slate of games. I'm excited to see your takeaways from what's been going on.
It's not much of a takeaway, but yeah, I was over at a friend's house. I live in Tennessee country now. So, they had to watch their Tennessee game. So I got to watch some of that. And I just kept on seeing this guy pop off the tape. And I was like, who is this cat on Kentucky? And then I heard the name, Barry Brown. I was like, oh, I've heard his name before. But he was just popping off to me. He's tall, skinny guy, but he showed a lot of yak ability, just catching slants and working over the middle. But then what really caught my eye was his ability, even though he's a very slender guy, to, make a contested catch along the sideline and still get his feet down in bounds and kind of wrestle it away from the defender. So that's something that's like really encouraging to see out of a young sophomore. And someone that, could stand to add some more mass and strength. So I think that could be something that's a big time part of his game at the next level. So it's really encouraging to see. I've heard that he's had a pretty rough start to the year, but he looked really good in that game to me. So that'd be someone I'm going to be keeping my eye on for next year.
Yeah, he's definitely looked rough at the start of the year, but that's the game that you were looking at of Barry Brown to have. I mean, we always knew, like you said, you notice his yak ability, and that's what we know Barry Brown for is his yards after the catch ability. He's elusive in open space. He's quick. I mean, he's got a few punt returns on his resume. I mean, dude is electric with the ball in his hands. So we knew he had that aspect of capability in his tool bag. What we were waiting for is the big contested catch thing. And I mean, that's what he showed on Saturday. And we were waiting for this one game for him to pop off and to actually do something. So he looked great Saturday. I think that was a great takeaway. And he's definitely somebody that I think you need to keep your eye on. The Devy community was really high on Barry Brown. And I think after his slump, I mean, a lot of people got off the Barry Brown train. So I think he's somebody that you could potentially buy pretty low right now and get a steal for somebody that's a good football player.
Yeah, I like that take.
Yeah. For me, I've got a few takeaways, but one of my biggest takeaways, one of the games that I was the most excited to watch was one of the games I was most looking forward to was this Utah-Oregon game. I wanted to see what Oregon was going to do stacked up against a Utah defense that's looked pretty good over the course of the season. They've held opponents, they've stopped opponents pretty well this season. So I wanted to see what this Oregon offense was going to do, and they came through. They shattered any expectations I could have thought they would have had. I mean, Bo Nix looked decisive. He looked accurate pretty much all day. This offense moved the ball up and down the field at will. Bo Nix was 24 for 31, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. Didn't make any interceptions. I mean, dude was just lights out. Did what you needed him to do. From the quarterback position, Bucky Irvin looked phenomenal, powerful, great contact balance. He showed his ability to stay on his feet through some pretty rough tackles early on in the first quarter, tackles that should have brought him down. Bucky Irvin is somebody that I've had my eye on throughout this entire season that just popped off this year. And Troy Franklin, I mean, you want to talk about Mr. Reliable. If you look up the word consistent in the dictionary, I'm pretty sure you can find Troy Franklin's name right beside the word consistent. Because, I mean, this dude just does everything that you want him to do. He's been Mr. Consistent all year round, getting the yards down the field, getting the yards after the catch. The big play explosive ability that he shows on the field is something that he shows every single week. He gets the yardage. He gets the production. He's somebody that's moving up in rankings from my wide receiver class. I mean, this class already looks like it's going to be a really good class for Devy prospects, and Troy Franklin is right there in the mix. So I loved what I saw out of this game. This Oregon offense did everything that I wanted them to do. Moving on, I watched Cal versus USC as well. I specifically watched that game because, you turn on any USC game and you want to see Caleb Williams. Marshawn Lloyd has been piquing my interest recently. Just his running back, his rushing ability. But, man, the guy that I came away most impressed with was this sophomore, Jaden Ott. He's a 6'0", 200-pound sophomore. And this dude had several big explosive plays this game, several big, 50, 60-yard runs. Springing into the house. He showed great patience behind the line of the scrimmage. And then when the hole opened up, he hit the hole hard. Shows great acceleration and top-end speed. He had 153 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game versus USC. Wow. He's averaging over 6 yards per carry, Rupert, on 754 yards this season in the sophomore season. So I think from a Devy aspect, that's somebody that we need to keep our eyes on. He's got the size. He does what you want him to do on the football field. He's somebody that piqued my interest a whole lot. Somebody that didn't pique my interest, though, I'm going to tell you right now, is Xavier Worthy. Last season, I don't know how much you know about Xavier Worthy, but in the Devy community, we were all worried about his drop issues, right? He was dropping the ball left and right, couldn't bring in a catch. And I saw a little bit about that still going on Saturday. He dropped 2 wide-open passes on Saturday. The drop issues are still there for the explosive ability that Xavier Worthy brings to the football field, his big play ability down the field, what he can do after the catch. I'm worried about his drop issues. If you're going to be a good wide receiver at the next level, what do you need to do? Well, you need to catch the ball, right? You need to be able to bring in the ball when it's most important. And Xavier Worthy has shown year after year that he's got a problem with his hands. And that's something that I'm really monitoring right now is Xavier Worthy. If he can break these drop issues that he's had, if it was just a fluke last game, I haven't seen much of Texas play this year. I'm hoping it wasn't a fluke. I'm hoping it was just – I'm hoping it was a fluke. I'm hoping it was just a one-time thing, but it's something I'm still monitoring. And then finally, I watched Ohio State because obviously I'm a big Ohio State fan. And Travion Henderson, man, this dude comes back from injury, and he looked more explosive than he did but pre-injury. He's easily my running back 1 in this class. He looked phenomenal just in between the tackles, gaining explosive yards. Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously a stud. We all know that. He had almost 21 yards per catch on 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. This team looked good versus Wisconsin. The only thing that's continuing to hold them back is Kyle McCord. And I'm going to beat that train till it's dead. But, I just don't think Kyle McCord is the guy to lead this offense to a national championship. For as good a pieces as they have, I'm worried about the guy at the helm. That's what I came away looking at this game. But that's some of the Devy takeaways that we had from this season. But I figure we can spend most of our time, Rupert, if you're okay with it, talking about the NFL slated games because there was a lot going on. It looks like we had kind of the same take on one of our guys. So I figured there's no better way to start than to start with Tennessee's quarterback. Why don't you tell us what you took away from that Tennessee game?
Yeah. So I watched the broadcast live, watched the whole game, and I came away very impressed. I saw, it's kind of like a calmness and a poise that I was not expecting in his first start. Obviously you can look at the stat sheet, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, yeah, he had a great game. But I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper. So I, watched all 22 film, and my takeaways are like cautiously optimistic. I was pretty down on Levis coming into the draft, but I was open-minded. I missed on kind of similar prospects in the past. Like I was out on Josh Allen. That was a bad miss. And same with Justin Herbert. I was also out on him. And they both, kind of proved me wrong. And I feel like it's like they have the mental aspect to kind of, and the work ethic to, maximize their potential. That's, the one thing that we really can't get a gauge on as analysts watching the film. But if he has that, then I'm, very bullish on his future. Some things that he showed in this game that I was not expecting was touch. He had multiple like little touch passes where he just had to like kind of flick it right over, defensive end or linebacker. Pretty much, from watching him in college is just laser or nothing. He didn't really have, as JT O'Sullivan says, like multiple clubs. Like he can throw like different loft and different velocity. He showed that in this game, which was impressive. It shows to me that he's been working and improving his game, which is very nice to see. One thing I did not see in watching the All-22 was much anticipation, which kind of shows me that, he may not be reading the defenses as fast. He may not be an elite processor like a Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are as rookies, right? But he can make up for it with, his rocket arm. Like he can see the guy open and get it to him before a defender can get there. So if he can add anticipation to his game and, being able to read defenses and kind of know where he's going, pre-snap essentially, sky's the limit for that kind of guy. But it's TBD on if he can add that to his game. But from what I saw, like it seems like the Titans can really maximize his skill set by running the ball a lot and doing a lot of play action shots down the field, which is what he was basically born to do.
Yeah, I think you hit on an important point there too. When you look at Levis, arm talent was never his problem, right? I mean, he showed that in the game where he was about to take a sack, I think at like the 40 or 50-yard line, and off his back foot flicks the ball for a touchdown. I mean,
Yeah.
Arm strength, arm talent was never this guy's issue. It was, could he anticipate the defense? Could he read a defense? Could he make those touch throws that he needed to make? And you definitely got a glimpse of him being able to do that. I think he's grown a lot as a passer from his last season in Kentucky to sitting behind Ryan Tannehill for a little bit. He's grown. He's grown a little bit from where you needed him to. So, for me, I mean, I think cautiously optimistic is the right way to approach Will Levis. He's somebody that I would at least be intrigued going out and just seeing what he would cost. I mean, definitely he's gonna be inflated after this game. If guys have him, they're probably not going to want to let him go right now.
Yeah.
But I'd still kind of want to know what the right price tag is for him right now because, as you said, I mean, you don't want to miss on guys multiple times. You don't. Yeah. You miss on Josh Allen, you miss on Justin Herbert. You don't want to miss on Will Levis. So I mean, if you have to overpay today, is an overpay today going to be an underpay tomorrow? It's kind of the way I look at it. So
yeah, I've been debating this, and I still don't feel quite overwhelmed enough to where I'm like, I'm gonna go overpay for this guy.
Yeah.
Like the taped in, like if he would have shown some really good anticipation throws in this game, then I probably would be going straight to overpaying, get him on my roster right now. But since I didn't see that, like I'm probably not going to overpay. Like you said, I want to see, what it would take, right? I actually have him in a couple of leagues, even though I was pretty out on him, just because I thought the value was too good. Like he'd slip to like the late second, early third of rookie drafts and super flex. I was like, yeah, I'll take the shot here. So I have a couple shares, and I did put them on the block just to see if anyone would come and like overpay. But no one has. So I think that's kind of indicative of the market right now. Like
Do you
people
do you
that
think
have them probably aren't going to sell them for what people want to pay for them.
exactly? Do you think Ryan Tannehill gets his job back, or is
Oh
this Will
no,
Levis? I think this is
no,
Will Levis's job to lose now.
yeah, they have to see what they have in them. Like we know Tannehill's not going to be there next year,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's Levis the rest of the year. I think they'd be doing themselves a disservice if they started anybody else.
I tell you, one quarterback that I'm starting to get a little worried about while we're still on the quarterback positions is Brock Purdy, or Brock not so Purdy, right? As he's looked the last few weeks.
Have you
I,
trademarked that? You
huh?
need to. You need to trademark that if you haven't yet.
I got it in the title of the show, so hopefully I can trademark it later. So we'll see. But yeah, he's not looked great the last few weeks. You could tell when he doesn't have his full offensive weapons. I just don't know if he's the guy that can go out and win you the football game. You know what I mean? He's definitely not going to be the guy that goes out and loses you the football game. I don't think that's who he is as a player. But he's the guy. Is he the guy that's going to take your team to the next level when he doesn't have all the key weapons? Debo Samuel was out. Christian McCaffrey was hurt last week. Still don't know if he's 100% right now. He had two really bad interceptions in that game where he just didn't look off the safety and just threw it right to him. I mean, just question marks leaving you scratching your head, wondering what he's thinking when he throws those balls. So, I mean, what are you doing with Brock Purdy? Are you worried about him? Are you still hopefully optimistic with him? I
Yeah.
mean, what's your opinion on him?
Yeah, I'm pretty heavily invested in Brock Purdy. Main reason is I see anticipation all over his film, which it shows me he's an elite processor. Yeah, he has looked much rougher these last two games, but I think, in my opinion, I think he's not as much missing the weapons. I think he's missing Trent Williams at left tackle.
Yeah,
I think the pressure is affecting him. He's trying to play a little bit too much hero ball and like get the ball out too fast, kind of deal. There's still in all the games that he has looked rough. There's still like very, you know, impressive plays from him, which is what he's been showing for a while. So I think it is if he can get Trent Williams back, he's going to be just fine. But yeah, I agree. I don't think he's a Drew Brees that can mask the whole team.
and that's what he was getting
That's why,
compared
yeah.
to the last few weeks, right? It is that Drew Brees player, and
Yeah.
I don't think we're there. I
He
think
could be there in the future. It took a while for Drew Brees to get there, right? He's only in his second season, halfway through his second season. So I'm
this
not
is
too
not me
worried
saying
about him.
Brock Purdy's bad, right? Because I don't think Brock Purdy's a bad player. I don't think he's the guy that can win you a football game.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
So moving on, what other takes do you have from this Sunday watching some football?
Yeah. One of my biggest takeaways is like I have huge optimism for the future of the tight end position. Tight end has just been so frustrating for fantasy and dynasty,
Yeah.
uh, especially the last 5 years. It feels like it's just you have Kelsey or it's a bust, right? There's like Mark Andrews had one big season, Darren Waller had one big season, but other than that, it's like Kelsey or nobody, right? It's just kind of a depressing landscape. But it's incredible the talent that we have coming into the league. We got Brock or Bowers coming in next year, which looks like the best tight end prospect in who knows how long. We had Kincaid blown up. We had Laporta has just been a monster all year. Myers looked really good this year. Trey McBride had his breakout game this past week. Then you got other guys like Luke Musgrave, who showed a lot of promise, but it's kind of been on a bad offense, bad situation with Green Bay. Then we got other guys that we have high hopes for, like Kyle Pitts, Greg Dulcich, Pat Fryermuth. There are some other guys that we have a lot of hope for, and that's what is that? 8 guys that look like they could be future tight end ones. So I'm really excited about the future, and I'm like trying to go out and grab as many of these guys as I have as I'm able to. I got one league where I fortunately have Kincaid, McBride, and Meyer in, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, one of my
And
biggest
I think
takeaways
it's
is
crazy
how
because, like,
good the
as
young
you
tight
said,
ends are.
it used to be where you would have one tight end and then it's just a cluster of guys that can maybe get you some fantasy points. Now you have several good options. I mean, I like the Kincaid and Laporta call out. I mean, Laporta has looked fantastic this season, especially for a rookie tight end. I mean, Detroit is featuring him, especially in the red zone. I mean, he looks phenomenal. I
It's
still
so
have hope
sad
for.
because I got one share of Laporta this offseason, and then I traded him before the season because I got a good package deal, I thought.
Dude, I was trying to get
Looking
him a
back, I'm
Scott
like,
Fishbowl. I tried to
yeah,
get him a Scott Fishbowl, and he went like a few picks before I was about to pick him, and I was so upset
oh,
because I was like, I had a feeling about Laporta, and he's done everything that you wanted him to do this season.
yeah, he's looked incredible.
Yeah, I still have hopes for guys like Kyle Pitts too. I mean, I'll say it this way: I have hopes for Kyle Pitts if Arthur Smith leaves the Falcons, because
Which it's got to happen sooner or
I
later,
mean,
right? He's not going to last there too long.
why do you draft Kyle Pitts at the highest position ever for a tight end? You go out and draft, Drake London in the first, what was it, 10 or 15 picks? You go out and you draft Bijan Robinson, and then you don't use any of the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand
And then
what
his
you're doing.
attitude where he mocks, people
Fantasy
asking him
football.
questions about that is just like,
Well, he's
it's
mocking
going to rub
fantasy
too many people
football.
the wrong way, and he'll be out of a job before he knows it.
He's mocking fantasy football, and I mean, at some point, this isn't even a fantasy football thing. This is a, hey, use the players that you have thing. I mean,
Yeah.
their backup tight end is the one that they're actually featuring, not a guy that's a weapon. And
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
So, one of my takeaways, I got to tell you for sure, one of my biggest takeaways is Jahmyr Gibbs is easily the best running back on that roster.
Easy.
Easy. I don't understand why you don't feature him as much as you do earlier on in the season. I mean, he's looked phenomenal. He looked explosive. He's a great pass catcher. We knew who we were getting when we drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in rookie drafts this year, and he's proven all of us right. My worry though, Rupert, and I got to tell you, is when David Montgomery comes back, we're going to be back to square one again, where David Montgomery is eating in to Jahmyr Gibbs' rushing upside, getting 30 carries a game, and Jahmyr Gibbs is relegated back to the bench, and we're left back at square one. And I don't see, after Jahmyr Gibbs has had the few weeks that he's had the past 2 weeks, how you send him back to the bench.
I don't think you can. I can totally see them still running Montgomery, but I don't think we're going to see any more of the weeks where Gibbs gets like 3 touches. I think those days are long gone. I'll tell you what's like impressed me the most out of seeing him this past game is his contact balance and his ability to break tackles was more impressive than what I saw on the college film. I saw, that crazy acceleration, the elusiveness, everything like that. But the way he was just bouncing off guys was very Alvin Kamara-ish.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I saw a little bit about that when he was at Alabama and especially Georgia Tech, just his explosiveness. So it was he put it on film in the college, but I think you've got to see that even more at the NFL. I mean, it's not even a 1A and 1B thing on that roster. It's 1A and then like all the way down the roster should be David Montgomery, but that's not the way it's happening.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have any?
I don't think they're going to relegate him, back to where he basically gets no touches. I can totally see, 60-40 split with Gibbs getting a little more work, but and Montgomery getting, those coveted goal line carries and stealing those from him. But yeah, the days of 3 and under touches for Gibbs are over.
I've got a fantasy football league where I've got Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, and that is not going as well for me this season as I anticipated it going when I drafted them both this offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, bit of a disappointing start for sure.
I'm more than cautiously optimistic. I'm incredibly optimistic about that team in the future. I mean, I think they're going to be elite assets next year, but this year has definitely been like, come on, let's start giving those guys a little more carries. But moving on, what other takes did you have from Sunday?
I am very excited to see Kyler Murray's return. What I've seen from the Arizona weapons has just been quite a bit surprising. Like even though they're one of the worst teams in the league, but I feel like they have a really good young core of weapons. We know who Hollywood Brown is. Like he's been a pretty dominant speedster wide receiver, putting up good numbers. And I feel like he's just going to feast when Kyler Murray gets back. And I think the reason is because they got two other good options where they can't just, double and triple team Hollywood. Trey McBride looked really good this past weekend. Just like the perfect kind of safety blanket, kind of knowing where he needs to be. And he showed a little bit of yak ability, being able to turn upfield and, uh, you know, make something more than just catching and getting tackled right away. I feel like he looked pretty athletic too, and I think that was kind of backed up by his RAS scores really high. He's a 4.5 guy, 40, so he's very athletic, and I feel like he can be a pretty big part of that offense. And the other guy that's really caught my eye this year is Michael Wilson. He's a bigger bodied wide receiver at 6'3". I think he's 217. But he doesn't move like a real big guy. He moves very well. He's fluid. He can work the middle of the field and outside the numbers, which I think is really great because he can, kind of control the safeties and give Hollywood Brown a little more, free reign. So I'm really excited to see how this offense unfolds when Cowher gets back, and especially like next year when he's fully healthy. We get McBride and Michael Wilson another year under the belt. So I'm really optimistic about the Arizona offense.
I can be optimistic about Arizona's offense. I just, at some point, Kyler Murray has got to take another step forward, right? And last year we didn't see it. The one thing that you can't judge, we can't sit here as analysts and judge, is what a quarterback has between the ears.
Yeah.
Right. His mental processing, the way he handles adversity. And I don't know if Kyler Murray handles all of that very well. I don't know. I don't know if he's the guy. I mean, he's definitely a playmaker. He's definitely got some arm talent. He's definitely the guy that can go out and do something magic with the football.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for me, it comes down to what's between the ears. And I don't know if for me, Kyler Murray's got it.
Yeah, that's definitely a question mark for sure. I think a lot of last year's struggles was the system. I wasn't a believer in Cliff Kingsbury's system, and I just feel like the defense has just figured it out, and I feel like Cowher kind of expressed a lot of frustration with that, which, maybe not the best thing for a quarterback to do in future franchise, but I'm pretty optimistic with the new system. Yeah, I agree. Like if we kind of see those signs coming up with like this new coaching staff and new system, then definitely some huge red flags. And
I got to think, though, if Joshua Dobbs can look pretty decent in that offense, Kyler Murray should be able to come in and look good, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly why I'm optimistic. I really like the coaching staff. I kind of wanted the Panthers to get that coaching staff, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him the rest of the year.
Yeah. Last takeaway, since we're talking about bottom of the barrel teams, I figure out there's no better way to bring this in than talking about this Chiefs-Broncos game, man. Ugh. What happened to the Chiefs other than the fact that Taylor Swift was not at the game? You can't use that as an excuse. I mean, what happened to the Chiefs on Sunday?
That was the only analysis I had, that she wasn't there, because that's all the NFL and CBS talks about. So I feel like that's the only thing that we have to talk about. Yeah, that was rough looking, wasn't it?
It was not a great looking game.
I
mean, I kind of feel like the Broncos just won their Super Bowl, right? I mean, that was their Super Bowl. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they beat the defending Super Bowl champions. So, like,
I watched the condensed game and I struggled to get through it. I was just like, ugh. It was slogging just to get through the condensed game. So I couldn't imagine watching the whole game live. That would have been brutal.
I mean, turnovers were obviously an issue for for Mahomes and the Chiefs. I mean, that's not something that's going to happen every week. So hopefully they clean some of that up. I mean, yeah, still an ugly loss and one that's going to look bad.
Yeah.
But one of the worst ones this season. I mean, the team just gave up 70 points to the Dolphins a few weeks ago, and you go and lose to that team. So I mean, the laughing stock becomes the team that beats the Super Bowl champions. I mean, you couldn't write that script any better.
Yep.
So
for sure. Yeah, I think that game really just kind of showcased Kansas City's weak point right now, which is talent on the perimeter.
yeah.
Like we had high hopes for Rashid Rice, and but it just doesn't look like he's a number one at all. The fact that they had to trade for Mecole Hardman to get some speed on the is pretty telling. Yeah,
Sky Moore looked awful.
Yeah,
Sky Moore was horrible.
Yeah, I'm fully out on Sky Moore. I don't know about you, but
no,
I never had any shares to begin with.
I was not one of the guys that was in on him this season anyway. But now after this season, I'm definitely out on Sky Moore.
Yeah, same.
So
same for Darius Tooney as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I have one share and I can't get rid of him.
Well, Rupert, that about does us for tonight, man. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on Twitter, and if there's any games you're looking forward to this week, why don't you go ahead and shout that out too?
Yeah, you can find me at Matthew Rupert FF on Twitter X.
Awesome. You guys can find me on Twitter at Devy Matt. Of course, we'll be back again, back to our regular schedule next week, Tuesdays at 7:30. Look forward to seeing you guys there. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to do that. You can find the YouTube channel at Devy Dynasty FF. Devy Dynasty Phone Room. Make sure to check that out. Like and subscribe to this video, this podcast. Like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you're listening on there as well. Make sure to leave us a review. We would appreciate that. But other than that, we will see you guys next week. Peace.
See y'all.